Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. As always, we are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Have you connected with us on social media yet? Please do. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Jedley Magic on Twitter, and at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram. We have a fascinating show for you today. Camryn Wells is here to celebrate her books, What Color Is Your Day? And The Memory of Play. Speaking of play, we would love for you to come to Chicago Kid Expo and play with us. That's right, Jedley's Totally Interactive Magic Circus and the Reading With Your Kids podcast. We're making our way to Chicagoland to celebrate Chicago Kid Expo, February 8th and 9th, Schaumburg Convention Center, Schaumburg, Illinois. We are so very excited to be going back to Chicago. We're going to be creating a totally interactive Reading With Your Kids booth, giving families a chance to find out what it's like to be a guest on the Reading With Your Kids podcast. And we're also going to be presenting 2 performances of Jedley's Totally Interactive Magic Circus. Come on out. You could be part of a brand new edition of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. You can also become the star of one of our magic tricks and illusions. It's all happening February 8th and 9th at Schaumburg Convention Center, Schaumburg, Illinois. It's Chicago Kids Expo. Joining us on the line right now from the Houston area and the beautiful state of Texas. She'd probably be happy that I say first and foremost she is a mom. She's also the author of 2 beautiful books, What Color Is Your Day? And also the brand new book, The Memory of Play. Please welcome to the show, Camryn Wells. Camryn, how are you?
Hi, Jed. Doing well. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really excited to speak to you. We just had a lovely little conversation before we started recording, and one of the things we were touching about is your new book, The Memory of Play. I guess we'll kind of go in reverse. We tell us the premise of that book and how The Memory of Play was inspired and came to be.
Sure. So The Memory of Play is the second book in the Color Feel Play series. And the inspiration was, being a mom and going to the park with my children, having my son say simple things like, Mommy, come down the slide with me, or, Mommy, get on the swing with me. And realizing that, in that moment, my first response was always an excuse as to why I couldn't do it. Oh, it's for big kids, or, Mommy's tired, or whatever it was. But the truth is I could, and I should, and so that's kind of, I changed my dialogue behind play and allowed myself to play a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is so, what a beautiful thing for our kids to be able to teach us. We're always talking as parents, we're always worried about what are we teaching our kids and what do we need to teach our kids. But just reintroducing us to the fact that it doesn't matter how old we are, we can still play and have fun and let down our guard and forget about, showing the world that we're responsible adults. We can be responsible human beings and have fun playing with our kids.
Yes, and we can, upgrade our inventory and say that, part of our responsibility is playing. I mean, we always talk about, wanting to stay young and wanting to, part of our health, I think is, allowing yourself to be mentally and physically active.
Yeah, and there's so much where people are feeling so stressed. And, there's so much pressure and so many decisions. And I gotta, you have very young kids. And so I'm sure that you're feeling part of the pressure of, wow, college is $70,000 a year right now. What's it going to be in 15 years? How am I going to afford that? What do I have to do to get that nest egg ready? And all the other things that parents are worried about. And just taking a moment to swing on a swing set with a kid, talk about releasing endorphins. And I still remember the first time I got back on a swing with my kids. I had a blast.
I know. Yeah. It puts an immediate smile on your face doing things, even things like, I don't know, if you stick your hand in, a thing of glitter or, in shaving cream or the messy stuff, whatever you do, it's like doing things like that. There's an internal, release of, like you said, endorphins and just happiness, and nostalgic memories that, we are all entitled to.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, I have this memory, and there's a picture somewhere of it. One of the things my wife wasn't able to get behind, she's a great mom. And she's an amazing teacher, but she just wasn't, my son was kind of a messy eater. He's 26 right now. I don't think he's still a messy eater, but his wife can let me know. But there was this one day where he just went at it with chocolate pudding. And I don't know what it was, but I said, yeah, let's both do this. And my wife came home and found us both covered with chocolate pudding, and the kitchen was pretty much covered with it too. And my son and I had a blast.
Yes.
But not so much my wife. I cleaned it up, so.
Well, I mean, even things like that, that's a perfect example because, it's like every day, right? As a parent, you teach your child like, make sure you're sitting at the table properly, wiping your mouth, clean your hands, all of these things that, yes, we want them to learn so that they are, effective adults. But, to kind of allow that moment of break to get chocolate pudding on your face, it's like, why not? Who's it hurting? So I think that's great.
Yeah. I think that's an important question. Who is it hurting?
Yeah.
And it is. That really is a good lesson to teach our kids. I am making this choice. Is it going to hurt anybody? Who is it going to hurt? How is it going to hurt them? It's not going to hurt anybody. Well, then maybe we can do it. Maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
Talk about your first book in the series. What Color Is Your Day?
Yeah. So this one, it's, your first book is always kind of your baby. And, this one was inspired, with my son when he was about, 2.5. So about a year earlier. And, we just realized that he had a lot of big emotions that he didn't necessarily know how to articulate yet. And so I wanted to give him kind of a resource and tools to work through that, and my husband and I did. And, so this book was the inspiration behind that. I'm a spoken word artist. So, kind of my creative outlet has always been creative writing. So that's kind of where the words in the book came from and going kind of the poetic route. But, it was just kind of teaching the child, emotions through the association of colors. Because that's something that, children understand very early on, colors, and some colors make them feel happy. Some colors make them feel sad or silly or whatever it is. But really having my child understand that, what color is your day? I would ask him that. And I'd say, Monroe, what color is your day? And at first, he didn't really understand because without context, that's kind of a hard question. But when I was able to explain it to him, what are you feeling? And he'd say, I'm feeling silly today, Mom. And I'd say, okay, what color makes you feel silly? And he might say that day it was, yellow or whatever it is, but just really helping him understand and identifying what he's feeling, and opening that dialogue that whatever you feel is okay. And we can learn how to manage them and work through them or hold on to them longer if we need to, but we're going to feel them. And that's the important part.
There is so much there. And that is so very, very important. There are so many kids. There are so many adults who can't deal with this. They're not able to identify what they're feeling. They know that what they're feeling isn't making them feel good right now, but they're not able to, and that's all they act on. And you see it with kids, but you also see it with a lot of unfortunately, you see it with a lot of politicians these days. But, you know, I remember my son, there was a time in his life, probably middle school, where he was having a real hard time. And a lot of the negative emotions, whether it was disappointment or sadness, they all felt like anger to him, or they all felt bad, and he expressed it with anger. And
Right.
it was really, really helpful at some point when we just sat down and did this, as, you know, when he was in middle school. What a beautiful gift it would have been for him if I had had the foresight to kind of, and a resource like What Color Is Your Day, to have sat down and started having these conversations with him when he was 3, 4, 5 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whew, when they're little, you know, and that's really what it was. We just saw this, you know, young person, 2.5 years old, but that doesn't mean that just because he's that little that he didn't have feelings. He was having these big feelings, you know, and we wanted to stay ahead of it. And we wanted to, you know, give him resources, because you're right. If we don't do that, you know, it's very easy to become the adult that doesn't know how to manage our feelings, you know, or express ourselves. And, you know, I mean, and then I read a quote at one point. It said something like, it's easier to teach a child than to fix an adult.
Wow.
Right.
Amen to that. That is absolutely right. And I think, you know, we all kind of understand as parents that, you know, that first step, that's the first time, you know, your child has to learn how to take that step. And they have to learn how to use a fork and a knife and sit at the table without putting chocolate pudding all over themselves. But I think we forget about the fact that they're feeling the same kind of emotions that we feel. They feel love. They feel disappointment. They feel happiness. They feel fear. They feel anger, disappointment. And for, you know, it's the first time they're feeling those emotions. And we forget the fact that we need to help them learn. Just as important as it is for us to teach them how to ride that bike safely, we need to teach our kids how to handle those emotions in a way that's healthy and will help them grow. Yes.
And what I love, you know, at this point, you know, like I said, Monroe is 3.5. And I love when he's going through, you know, not a new emotion, but just an emotion, right? And he knows the words, and he knows how to figure out, you know, how to walk himself through those emotions to really understand what he's feeling, you know? I think he has a very big vocabulary in terms of emoting, you know, for a three-year-old. I just, you know, I see him and you know, things like, I mean, when he's 18, he's going to hate a story like this, but, when he was we were trying to work through nighttime potty training, right? And, you know, he's still in pull-ups, and I would say, well, one day we ran out of pull-ups. Well, I wasn't going to the store, you know, and I'm like, okay, listen, this is where we're at. We don't have any pull-ups. We're going to have to wear underwear tonight. And he was like, okay, Mommy, I'm just feeling a little nervous. That's a big emotion. Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, bud, well, why are you feeling nervous? And he said, because if I have an accident, you know, I don't want to have an accident. And I said, okay. So we were able to handle that. And I said, well, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to set out a spare pair of clothes. We're going to set out a spare, you know, a sheet. And if you have an accident, it's okay. You're just going to wake up. You can come and knock on Mommy's door and say, Mommy, I had an accident. And we already have your stuff ready to change. And, you know, getting him to that point got him in bed. He had an accident. And we did exactly that. So that's also showing him that Mommy is of her word, you know? So there's just so many parts in that make me celebrate, you know. No, I'm not happy that nobody wants to see your kid nervous or sad or angry, but that he understands them and he is able to work through them, and he's able to be excited the next day about his accomplishments. There's an accomplishment in everything, you know, and he was excited that he got through the day or through the night, you know, and it's just, yeah, we were able to celebrate that.
You know, one of the things that we've talked a lot about here on the show is this idea that, you know, there are a lot of parents out there that don't want their kids to experience anything bad. Well, no parent wants their kids to experience anything bad, but a lot of parents wrap their kids up in a type of bubble wrap so that they never experience a loss. They never experience a failure. They don't fall down. They don't take chances. And as a result, when they get older and they're confronted with the real world and there is loss and there are failures and they hear the word no, they don't know how to handle it. This is the time to do that. You know, at 3, when you have an accident and you're able to express, I'm nervous about this. This is something new. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And you set up for him like, well, if this happens, these are the steps we'll take. And then he did have an accident and it was okay.
That's right.
You didn't flip out on him. He didn't, the world didn't come to an end. You were able to fix it and then move on. What a important lesson, I think, that'll really help him as he gets older and tries out for a dance team or a sports team and, might not make it the first time around.
Well, and, I think it's also important too, because talking about a world of people, right? Mm-hmm. So we're all different. We're made up differently. Mm-hmm. I fully celebrate my son, and he is he is not a risk taker. Okay. He's just a cautious kid. Mm-hmm. And, I'm okay with that. I don't need him to be, the first kid in line to try something or, whatever it is. Now, that's also in certain elements. If you give him a learning challenge, he's the first one to try it. Mm-hmm. If you tell him to go down, I don't know, a new slide or he's not that kid. Uh-huh. If there's a risk in it, if he could break something or, it's just going to take him a minute. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important to honor that.
Sure.
And also help him work through, getting to a point where it's okay to try things. Everything mm-hmm. isn't going to end in, pain or, whatever it is, so finding a way to support him and uplift him and still strengthen him. And, it's just, you got to find that middle ground because mm-hmm. You don't want your child to feel pain or anger or sadness or whatever it is, but that doesn't mean they won't, mm-hmm. That's the beauty of being human and mm-hmm. having the ability to feel these things. So I think we should embrace that, but also find a way to support our children, for when those times come, because they will.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to learn. And it's a great way for our kids to grow. Yeah, I agree. One of the things that you mentioned early on is that as a spoken word artist, you have that art to kind of express yourself and express emotions. And can you talk a little bit about the value of opening our kids up to different forms of expression, especially in the arts, that, as a tool for them as they grow older to be able to express some of those emotions and feelings and just observations that they might experience? Mm-hmm. So I was, since I was a child, art has been a major part in my life, whether it was, at a museum or, in nature, seeing the beauty in nature. Words are where I gravitated. I always loved playing with words and finding a way to just tell a story or tell the beauty of something or, really dig deep and just, I don't know. I've always found comfort in words. So I think, for some people though, words can be a little scary in writing and public speaking and, all of that. It doesn't have to be for everybody, but I do think it's important for children to have an outlet of some sort in the arts, mm-hmm. Whether it's through music or dancing, or I don't care if you're doing basket weaving, it's like,
just have an outlet, because I think with that, you are tying in the emotions. And, I always make sure I say this, but I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a mom, and I've seen what works, with my own kids and with myself too. It's like when I think about some times where I'm going through just some of the heaviest moments, or the joyous moments, writing has been where I turn. And that was something that, because I've found a love for it, I've shared it with children before, of all ages, K through 12. And, it resonates with some. Other ones, they don't get it. They're not interested. But there is a spark when a kid gets it, whether it's, like I said, through words or through visual art, there's a spark, and I love seeing that spark.
Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I can't, and I don't, and you certainly you can say, well, I'm not ready, but I was just, since we have you here, you are a spoken word artist. Is there, do you have a short piece you could share with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can share the first piece I ever wrote when I was 10.
Okay.
It's called So You Say. So you say the people you hang with are friends, the ones that do wrong, the ones that do sins, the ones that get high and always lie. See, they think that they're tough because they're smoking that stuff, and you always say that you're not that way. Well, if you're not that way, or so you say, then how come your mom finds smokes in your room, and then of course she's gonna assume that you're puffing up smoke and you think it's a joke? Well, who gets a kick when you're lying home sick? Lying in bed, eyes puffy and red. You close your red and puffed up eyes and fall into an endless sleep. When you don't awake, there's a lot of whys. People cry and people weep, but where are your friends? Your so-called friends? See, you thought that they cared, but they're out where? Setting a trap for another soul, where you once were, but now you're in a hole.
Wow. 10 years old?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
That is amazing. Well, bravo. I'm going to give you a round of applause here. That is amazing. Wow. I have to ask, you mentioned earlier, thank you very much for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you're not a psychologist, but you have a lot of insight into the human condition. Where did that kind of wisdom come from, especially at 10? But also, I'll be very, very honest with you. My kids were grown and adults before I even thought about doing a podcast that kind of related to parenting and sharing parenting ideas. I think partly because, I didn't want to jinx, my kids. But and I had a background in human services before I got into performing in magic. But where did this confidence, I guess, to kind of get out there and share about speaking to your kids about emotions and whatnot?
Yeah. Like I said, I think that I have always, I've never been scared of public speaking or, writing. I never started writing to become, I'm not famous now, but for any sort of, just, I don't know. I write because I love writing. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And the first time I performed my spoken word piece, which was that one, it was in front of 600 peers. Wow. I didn't really understand though that, stage fright. Uh-huh. It just never resonated to me. So for me, where it comes from, it's just my truth. It's just, it's kind of where I was able to see the world at that age. And I think that's how I've always written, regardless, I'm not saying everything is that heavy. What I'm saying is, whatever the place is in my life, I've been able to really illuminate on that and find the truth in that, so if I write about joy, it's going to be it's just going to be, it might be rainbows and unicorns. That's how joyous I'm feeling. If it's dark, it might feel really, really heavy. I mean, but my writing has a physical weight to it, so, I don't know where it came from. My mom has always said I'm an old soul. Uh-huh. So I would say maybe that's part of it. Maybe I lived in another lifetime. I don't know, but, it's my truth.
And I have to tell you the truth, it's pretty amazing. And I love the wisdom that you're sharing with us. Now, there are 2 books in your series, What Color Is Your Day and The Memory of Play. Are there more in the future?
Yeah. So we put, the 2 books out. The first one came out in September, the second one in November. We really wanted to work with the momentum of the books and, kind of put those 2 together and give people, a beginning to the series. And now I think we're going to give it a little bit of a breather. So, it might be a year before, the next book comes out, but, it will be kind of in the same thread of color, feel, play, these things that we experience as people and kind of what makes that beautiful part of us. So yes, there will be more books, in due time.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, where can folks connect with Camryn Wells online so they can learn more about your book series and learn more about you?
So on my website is www.camrynwells.com. That's CAMRYN. And I'm also on Facebook at Color Feel Play Series. I'm on Instagram at it's /Camryn Wells author, and also on Twitter. I believe that one is Camryn Wells, just my name.
Awesome. Well, we've had an amazing, amazing time speaking with Camryn about her 2 books and also experiencing a little bit of her spoken word. Are there places where we can also hear more of your spoken word or even see you present some of it live?
I'm sure somebody has some old videos of me that you can dig up somewhere, but I haven't done spoken word in a few years. That's not to say I wouldn't do it again. I do spoken word when I do readings at schools and in the community, so that's definitely a place where you can find me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, other than that, I might for the fun of it, because you did just ignite the passion in me again for spoken word. I've always loved it. So maybe I will, for the fun of it, post some videos of spoken word. That does sound like a fun little treat.
Well, I will celebrate if I did ignite that spark in you again. That is a good thing that I can add that to lists of good things that I've done in my life. I need some more of those things. And I'm just imagining, one day, maybe your kids make you really happy, or maybe they make you a little bit frustrated and you decide to come at them with a little bit of spoken word to get them back in.
So I'll leave you with this. I do have this one, I won't do the whole thing, but I have this one spoken word piece that I wrote, 10 years ago. But the first line of it goes, "You don't know me. You don't know me." And that's what I'm going to come with my children at. If they come at me sideways one day, I'll say, "Hold on. You don't know me." You probably want to revisit.
You really don't know me.
Yeah.
Well, we're so happy that we had a chance to get to know Camryn Wells a little bit today, and we're really looking forward to having you back on to get to know you a little bit more in the future. Be sure to check out What Color Is Your Day and the Memory of Play by our guest, Camryn Wells. Camryn, thank you so much. I had such a joy speaking with you today.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be our friend Leslie Wall. She'll be back to share with us some of her favorite middle grade reads, books that we can read and co-read with our tweens and our teens. And it is so very, very important to keep reading with your kids as they learn how to read independently, to sit down and talk with them about the books they're reading, to read aloud with them sometimes, just to remind them how very special they are in our lives. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on a Reading with Your Kids podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands and thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button at the bottom of the page. Let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank Camryn Wells. I plan on having Camryn back in the future, especially to share some of her spoken word work. It's amazing, and I love what she's doing, and we love to have her back on the show. Also want to thank my producer, the amazing Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. And most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. In addition, if you have the time, in addition to subscribing to the show, which is so very, very important, we'd really appreciate it if you could also leave a review. A 5-star review would be amazing. Not only can you review the show itself, but you could also review different episodes. And if you leave a comment, that's even better, because the more comments, the more reviews we have, the more shares we have, then the more people find out about the show. So we would really appreciate your help in that area. Most of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that. You absolutely do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.